Okay, we're still working on assignment 2.2. This is the second image from the handout on the homework assignment. This is going to go in your journal. Again, this is 2.2. We're going to do the 2-point perspective sketch. Earlier I did the single point perspective sketch of the same shape, and we ended up looking like this. In this view here, the front view was was this facing this way, but in the glass box that I've got here for the second one, for the 2-point perspective sketch, we're going to make this the front, and the right side will go over here. So basically taking this whole object and just rotating it 90 degrees. So let me set that one aside, and let's go ahead and start by filling out the glass box with the lines that were provided. And again, I'm going to make sure that I'm filling this out with as light a construction line as I can, because otherwise this goes and distracts from my actual object. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill these in. Now normally, if you were doing this one from scratch, just using orthographic graph paper, you'd have to try to find some sort of dimensional convention that you could use to try to eyeball these things. And on the depth it gets a little tricky, because again, you just can't count back blocks. You got to kind of, but honestly it doesn't matter. What you need to worry about is just keeping your proportion in shape. If you've got a certain length in the back and your object is half that length, and then make sure that you draw it half that length. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Okay, so here's my glass box. Oh, we'll get that front one in. And like I said, this face here, this front face number 1 is going to be this face right here, this number 1 here. So I could look and count. That's the same as this one over here. These are the same face. So this thing here goes 1, 2, 3, 4 deep, or it's even better to see it from this angle here. I start 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4. So this length here should be 4 units long. And then the height of it is 1, 2, 3. So again, I go up 1, 2, 3. I'm going to divide this one into 3 divisions. Okay, so I thought numbering this might be a good idea, but on retrospect, I think it'll be too confusing. So let's go ahead and take a look at this shape. So this one's going to go 2/3 of the way up, or it's 2 blocks up, and looks like 3 over. So again, that's going to be 3. If I divided this up into a half, that's 2, right? And I would take this one and divide it in half again. That would be 3. It looks about right. I can even measure it if I wanted to. So 1, 2, 3, 4 centimeters. So yeah, right there is going to be good. And I'm going to draw a vertical line, and just like that, and that's going to go up to this construction line here. And then this face here is only 2/3 of the way up, so again I got to go and measure out 2/3 of the way up. So this is 1, 2, 2 and a little bit, so we're going to go up a little less than 2 centimeters. That's about 2/3 of the way right there, maybe a little lower. And I can connect that dot now to my vanishing point line number 1, and that gives me the front face here for this shape. And I probably drew these other guys a little bit too dark, but we're not going to erase them. We're just going to leave that there. So that's this front face here. And I need to do this right face over here, and I already can use this same junction that I have. So let's go ahead and use a vanishing point line to this point, and it's going to go back like this. I think this would be actually a good point to go ahead. I know that these are going to be object lines here. Nothing else is going to get added. Nothing gets in the way. This is the full width here. So I'm going to go ahead and darken in my object lines now, just to prevent some confusion later on. So we'll darken this line in here. Yep, and I pressed a little too hard. So those object lines here, you can actually see a good percentage of this sketch now. All right. Now I got to get to this harder part because again I have negative space over here and then I have this part sticking out, and actually this orientation up here is actually a little more accurate of what we got. Again, I got right side, front view, front view. According to the glass box method, I would use all of the surfaces that are touching the outside edge of the box, and so I know that this corner here represents this corner right here. Sorry for the screensaver kicking in there. All right, again, so this corner right here is the same as this corner right here. So I've got this back line and the side line already drawn. I just need to figure out how deep to go. And looking at this thing, it goes 4 deep. So I could take this line in here and find the midpoint in here somewhere, or on this one as well. It's going to be right about here, which should correspond to someplace right here. Let's go ahead and connect those up using our vanishing line. Let's see how that looks there if I do this. I don't think we've gone quite far enough here. Let's go right about here. Let's split the difference. Okay, so that's the construction line there. I think that'll be okay. Let's stick with that. So this is the back part of this square, and then the other half is going to be dividing this line here in half, right about there, because again, this thing is 1, 2 wide, just like this is, and so I need to divide it in half. These lines should line up. So there's my construction line. So this marks this top square here, or rectangle. So let's go ahead and darken that in. I still think this should come out a little bit more. You'll note the best way for me, I always line these up by putting my pen right on that vanishing point line and then just sliding my ruler as a pivot around there. Kind of ensures that I get this right. Now, the next thing I need to do is this inside stuff. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw down some construction lines here. And this looks a little bit better, because I know I've got this thing going down. Something like that. And this back line here, this is a good place to start, is going to go to this construction line here. In fact, I can go ahead, I believe, and darken this back line, and going from this point back. It looks odd right now because I got all these construction lines in, but once I darken this, it'll look a little more like what it's supposed to look like. Go there. This doesn't really exist. This is the line I'm concerned about. Taking this down like that. There we go. Now I could take from this intersection, use my vanishing point to put this line in here until it hits this construction line like that. Let's go redraw this one again. It's off just a little bit. And let's darken that in now. So you see what I've done here. This surface right here is this one. And we're still working on this shape right in here. I've got most of it. In fact, what I need to do is just close it off, but I'm not quite sure how far back to go yet. because it still looks a little odd. I think what we can do is take this line and darken it till it hits this construction line here. Is it looking right? No, it doesn't go all the way back, does it? No, it does not. Okay, and that makes sense. That was no such thing as mistakes, just happy accidents. So what I've got to create here is this line right here doesn't go all the way back. It would look like that if it did. It just goes back until it hits this back part. So what I need to do is draw a construction line from this point to my vanishing line, and then that should take care of it. So let's go ahead and add that line there. Right, just that construction line. And I can see where those are going to intersect. That is more like what I need right there. That was what was throwing this off before. There we go. And again, this will look a lot better once I shade it in. Now this back line here, I just need to finish off. It goes and disappears behind this back edge like that. I think that's all these surfaces that I had. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this while I shade it in, and you can take a look at my final product. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and show you my shading technique, since I don't think I've done that yet. I have a couple of things that I like to do. Picking your dark face, and we keep this as the front. So this is my front face here. I'm going to go ahead and make that dark. I like to use a ruler to mark the edge of some of these straight edge parts, and that allows me to just really press down a little harder with my pencil. I try to make as long a line as I can, but still be able to control what I'm drawing. And the dull wood pencil works best for this. So again, just get that flat bit. You can use the ruler kind of as a guide to keep you from going over the edges. Like that. And just darken all that in. Now you also want to kind of go and crosshatch these darker bits by going up and down with them. And this is an excellent time when I got my thicker pencil. As I'm darkening all these in, it's a great time to go back over your object lines and kind of darken and thicken them up a bit. That kind of helps create that contrast that you got. It kind of bled over there. Now again, you're really not supposed to erase any of these construction lines, and I'll leave most of them up here, but I think if they detract from the sketch, there's no point in keeping them. I'm not necessarily a purist. Alright, so this one here needs to be dark also, so let's go ahead and just work on that again. And this one I'm just going to go ahead and freehand it in here, because it's such a, using the ruler doesn't really add much for me. It's such an odd shape. Okay, so I've just about done darkening in this front face here. And I've gone over all my edge lines, my object lines. Okay, so I have to do these front two faces also, or the right side faces here and here, and those are going to be slightly lighter. The real trick to these is just holding this pencil as light as you can. And just allow the weight of the pencil itself, and that creates a nice lighter shade. Try not to go over it any more than you have to. The more you do it, the darker it's going to get, and we're really not trying to create a dark line here or shade. We're trying to create a lighter shade than the other. I can always make it darker. I cannot make it lighter. And so we're definitely going to try to keep this going in just one direction. So I'm always going side to side on these. I don't want to go up and down if I can avoid it, because that creates that darker crosshatch look to it. But I don't want to see my lines either. That's why I'm using a dull pencil. A sharp pencil, and you end up seeing kind of your lines where you were drawn. So again, so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and do this one. Nice having it dark next to me, then I don't have to worry about going over the edge of my lines. There we go. And there's your shape. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So that one's in my journal. If you have any questions, please come see me during tutorials.